Chapter 46, Mother's Love. The woman who opened the door wore a gray suit jacket over a collared blouse, her short, neat blonde hair highlighted and high heels clicking softly on the floor. Everything about her screamed, real estate agent in her 60s. It seemed like they were too late. "How may I help you?" she asked. Pip stepped back and said, "Sorry, I think we're in the wrong place." Ben stopped her. "We're here to talk to Mrs. Christina Hay or anyone who can direct us to her," he said. "I might be able to help you if I know what this is about," the woman replied eloquently. "It's about her daughter," Pip said. The woman's polite smile went cold. "She's dead?" she asked. Ben quickly clarified, "No, she's fine. You are Miss Hay?" "Hay was my married name. I changed back to my maiden name after Sam finished school. If she isn't dead, then you must be the police." "Pho, I haven't heard from her in the past 10 years," Christina said. 10 years? That is odd," Ben remarked. "I'm Ben, Sam's husband." He reached out for a handshake. "And this is Pip. We'll explain why we're here if you give us half an hour of your time." Christina scanned them for a second, perhaps trying to understand what was going on. She finally gave up and let them in. The interior of the house was vintage with a modern touch in the kitchen, neat and inviting, more like something out of an interior design magazine. They sat down on a white lounge, both surprised by the contrast to what they had expected. "Sorry, I was getting ready to go to work, so we have to make it quick," Christina said. Ben began, "Sam talked about you. Not very much. I always pictured you as a typical Christian white lady. My mother was more of a God's person. I'm not much like that. There was a point when I hit a dead end and prayed as a last resort. A lot. And guess what? As I expected, it didn't help. So I pulled the trigger on God and took matters into my own hands. What else has she told you to justify my total absence from her life? You still haven't told me why you're here." She was a sharpshooter for sure. It sounded like she had been preparing for this day. "She has no idea we're here. We came to ask you about—" He was interrupted by Pip again. "Family history, specifically yours and her father's, regarding her condition, which we believe she's been dealing with from a very young age. We need family history, and what she's provided doesn't make sense. Can you tell us about her father? How did he die?" "Sam's father isn't dead, at least not until a couple of nights ago when I saw him at the RSL. He's a good man, but given Sam's condition, I had to choose a side. Sam needed me more." "Was that why you divorced him, or did he play a significant role in her condition?" Pip asked, aware that she was treading on uncertain ground. She hoped to shift the blame onto Sam and her lies. "Sam blames her father, and we need to know more about him." "That's news to me. Compared to his brother, a paranoid schizophrenic with a history of drug abuse who accidentally killed himself, Sam's father was a decent man. But war breaks people. He was calm and kind. But maybe joining the army, given his family history of mental illness, wasn't the best decision. He was tormented by nightmares and panic attacks. He was adamant about not having children because of his family's mental health history and his own post-traumatic stress. I begged him to have Sam, and he finally agreed after I promised we could overcome nature with nurture. But I was wrong. I left him because I couldn't expose him to what Sam was becoming. It was a gradual unraveling, something dark and dangerous that I feared would destroy him. Sam always blamed me for my selfish decisions, as she said countless times. Now she's blaming her father?" Christina, visibly agitated, stood up and walked to the kitchen. "You're walking on a tightrope here, you know?" whispered Ben to Pip. Christina came back and stopped their conversation. "I gave her life, a chance to have consciousness, to smell and taste and laugh and love, to marry a man who cares about her so much that he traveled this far to find me to help her." "She told us her father was a pedo," Pip blurted out. "That question has come up a million times when I was taking her from one doctor to another, and the answer was always no. One of the gifts of war was killing a man's sex drive. Getting pregnant was a serious struggle. His brother was, though." Christina's confidence, combined with her refusal to take the bait, left Ben no choice but to bring out the big gun. "You said you and Sam haven't talked for about 10 years?" Ben took out his phone and showed the photo on his screen. Christina glanced at the picture, pulled it back as far as she could, and squinted to get a better look. Finally, she said, "What is this? I haven't seen this picture of Sam before." She handed Ben's phone back, but instead of taking it, he said, "This is not Sam. It's Jenna, your granddaughter. She is 8 now." Ben smiled. He and Pip could see the flood of emotions on Christina's face. She stood up, one hand covering her mouth and the other on her waist. She took a step and made a half turn, double-checking. "Is this really Sam's daughter? How did she get pregnant?" Christina asked. "She didn't. We used a surrogate," Ben replied. "Sorry, I have to call the hotel and ask the other manager to stay longer until we finish," Christina said as she walked out to make a phone call. "I don't know how much longer we can pretend we know what Sam's problem is. If you know any mind control techniques, now's the time, Pip," Ben whispered. "Just play along. Good call getting Jenna involved in the story," Pip replied. Christina returned and said, "I think I know why you're here now, and I am no longer able to help. That's when Sam finally got a diagnosis. Her doctor suggested freezing her eggs in case she wanted to have children one day. I was all against it, so I see she did it anyway. And you're here because you've seen something in Jenna too. Is that correct? How dare she make another one like herself after all she did?" Christina spoke with deep regret, then continued, "Let me guess. Nothing is working for Jenna either. Tell me why you are here." Ben was surprised by Christina's reaction to having such a beautiful grandchild. He glanced at Pip, who seemed on the verge of an unsettling realization, her eyes wide, lips slightly parted, as if piecing together something unexpected. Ben responded, "Sam has been taking some kind of illegitimate, untested medication, hiding it from everyone. We're wondering who is providing it for her and why." Sam was on them because the regular ones lost their effect on her very quickly. I couldn't just wait and see what terrible stunt she'd pull next. So I took her to the Passion to Freedom, and they cured her. There were rumors that even though they officially shut down, they were still operating under the radar, and I am grateful to them. They helped people whom no one else could, people like Sam. Pip, her voice gravely, explained to Ben, Passion to Freedom was the clinic Blake told us about earlier today. What they're giving her is killing her. I'm not sure how long we have until she develops cancer or something, Ben said. People die all the time, one less pest, I guess, Christina replied, her tone cold yet heartbroken. Ben asked, "Do you have any idea what kind of illegal activities they were involved in?" There were so many funny rumors, but they initially made a lot of money from hosting illegal gambling games in the building, which also helped them make some wealthy friends. "You mean they got patients to fight each other like gladiators and gambled on them?" Ben asked in disgust. "No. Amazing how far people's imaginations can travel when they're biased. It was just normal poker and blackjack, and as they hosted it, they took their cut. This goes back to when gambling was illegal here, and that's how they got their business off the ground. So yes, I took my daughter to a legitimate clinic that people believed performed miracles. And so far, no one had been able to help her. I just wanted her to stop, and she did. For me, whatever side effects those pills had were better than what Sam was capable of doing." Pip, who had been quiet for a while, finally spoke up, sounding unsure. "We stopped those meds and replaced them with placebos." "You did what?" Christina was visibly distressed. She stood up and started pacing around the room. "Are you crazy? You stopped a psychopathic pedophile's medication and let her face it? Let me tell you something. She will love it. Why? Why couldn't you let her die in peace?" Christina shouted. Pip finally whispered the words she had been thinking for a while. "Voluntary chemical castration." "Sam is a P." Ben couldn't believe it. "But it's impossible." "I know. I was told that so many times before I met the Passion. They saved Sam, saved the children she could have hurt." Pip interjected, "Their diagnosis was pedophilia? You know it's almost never reported in women, right?" "No, they didn't tell us anything we didn't already know. They didn't respond like other doctors. Like you." She pointed at Pip, who said, "No, it has never been reported before." They took her in, treated her, and she went on to university, studied like a normal person, got married like a normal person. Ben and Pip were speechless. All that was running through their minds was, what have we done? After a few seconds, Pip managed to gather herself and decided, I need to call Blake.